To start with, we're going to have Councilmember Joe Buscaino.
Thank you, Marshall. Councilmember Joe Buscaino, Buscaino, here alongside my colleague and the new chair of our Arts and Parks Committee, Councilmember John Lee. Thank you, John, for joining us. I am here today because I support the park rangers' quest to bear arms. There are a total of 25 park rangers that cover more than 420 parks in the city that is 500 square miles, including this Griffith Park, the largest municipal park in the country. Now, these park rangers behind me are perpetually running into dangerous situations. They're running into dangerous situations almost on a daily basis. Now get this, over the last 4 years, there have been 38 homicides in LA City parks, including 6 in one of my parks, the Harbor Regional Park in Harbor City. There have been 167 shootings, including 44 at the Gilbert Lindsay Park. There have been 267 rapes, including 58 rapes at MacArthur Park. There have been 1,844 assaults with a deadly weapon, including 217 of those at Venice Beach. There have been 1,050 robberies, including 144 that took place at Pershing Square in downtown Los Angeles. Now, I encourage you to watch the video that our park rangers put out. These men and women have already gone through training that our LAPD officers go through and have been trained to bear arms. I've been through LAPD Training Academy back in 1996, and we have the most qualified, trained LAPD officers in our academy today, and they've been trained by the best in the country. We're all asking our rangers to keep us safe and welcoming, but they are begging us to help defend them because a lot of crime happens in our parks. Let me get Officer Ebner. Yes, sir. Ranger Ebner. He went through the LAPD Academy, and he took an oath to protect and serve the residents at our parks throughout this country, throughout the city, I should say. He took an oath to protect and serve residents and visitors at our parks throughout the city of Los Angeles. It's our duty to make sure that we protect him by giving him the proper tools. Thank you. We're asking them to keep our parks safe and welcoming, but they're begging us to help defend them because a lot of crime happens in our parks. And if we believe the danger they face and believe that they are good guys, then I cannot find a reason that we should not deliver on their quest. These are our park rangers. All we're asking is to allow them to defend and protect themselves and the patrons of our parks. We're talking 26 rangers. In fact, LAPD, they confiscate 26 illegal guns almost on a daily basis in the city of Los Angeles. That's the least we can do to help our rangers defend themselves and protect families at our parks. Homicides are at a new high, over 350 this year, and layoffs are threatening LAPD officers. Park rangers are sworn officers who already received the training, but past policy did not allow them to issue firearms in our city. We need to change the LA Municipal Code to allow them to bear arms while they protect our parks. This is why I offered the motion earlier this year, and I have the support of my colleague John Lee and other council members to move forward. Previously, park rangers did not have the responsibility going beyond our parks, but these days, they're being asked to do a lot more, including collaboration with the men and women of the LAPD. The Ranger program is expanding, and Rangers are policing beyond our parks. They're often asked to patrol remote areas. We're simply updating what our ask is and I'm hoping that my colleagues agree with me, and John Lee, we're simply updating internal policy and following a model already in place by the National Park Service, law enforcement rangers, and the California Park Peace Officers. So I urge my colleagues to strongly consider supporting our park rangers, all 26 of them, and keep in mind, these are park rangers who are allowed to carry firearms off duty, but not on duty, which is asinine. Let's protect those who protect us in our parks. Mr. McLean.
Thank you, sir. And now we'll have Councilman John Lee, who's now the new chair of the Parks Committee.
Thank you, Marshall, and thank you, Councilmembers Buscaino, for allowing me to be a part of this today. As Marshall just said, I am the new chair of the Parks Committee in the City of Los Angeles, and this motion is pending within my committee. And I understand that parks are more than just a beautiful natural landscape within our city. They're important sacred spaces within the urban landscape of our city of Los Angeles. And, these days our officers are asked to do so much more. During this pandemic, our parks have proven to become so much more important than they used to be. And it's just as important to make sure that we protect the people who visit these spaces. Our brave park rangers are often the first responders. And unfortunately, times are changing where I believe over 70% of the things that they respond to are now regarding law enforcement issues. And in the last 4 years, I believe we've had over 34 violent incidents of crime within our parks. And that's why it's so important that we address this motion coming up in our city. During our time when the police department is asked to do so much more these days and facing layoffs, we need to be a little bit more creative on how we protect, our city parks. And so that's why I'm supporting Councilmember Buscaino's motion to make sure that families, don't even have to think about this, but understand that when they visit our parks, that they are visiting a place where they can feel safe. And so, our park rangers, who are fully recognized by the state as law enforcement officers, to be armed, I believe, is a step in ensuring the public safety of all city of Angelenos in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Next speaker is also on the board that represents the park rangers, and he also is a park ranger, Sean Kleckner.
Hi there. Good morning. My name is Sean Kleckner, and I've been a park ranger for about 3.5 years. Like many of my fellow colleagues here, I attended the LAPD Academy a few years ago. We go through the same LAPD Academy that the airport police officers attend, as well as the port police. The only difference is, while we're all trained in the various de-escalation tactics, as well as all the other full LAPD Academy curriculum that they have, the only difference is that after the academy, upon graduation, we have to go ahead and relinquish the firearms that we were trained with. These are just tools that are offered to all the other law enforcement agencies within the city. One thing that I think that we forget is that the LA City Park Rangers have some of the highest and most stringent standards when it comes to hiring park rangers. We have to have a 4-year degree. We have to have a background that includes either law enforcement, either being a paramedic or an EMT or a security officer with the city. We have the highest standards for peace officers within the city of Los Angeles. We are a small group that's often forgot, but we have very serious issues that happen in our park. Many of the issues that we come across start off as low-level life issues, but we're asked to go ahead and have law enforcement contacts with these individuals that have put, this year, our rangers in harm's way. Elysian Park, October 1st, rangers were shot at. Just the Christmas Eve of this year, we had somebody violently stabbed 8 to 9 times at the merry-go-round parking lot that's behind you. That person walked over here and bled out on park property. Christmas Day, we had to have Recreation and Parks maintenance staff come out in hazmat suits and scrape the floor and clean the biohazard that was on the floor. What we're asking for is nothing more than what's already given to the other law enforcement officers in the city, so that our officers can go ahead and return home safe to their families. Thank you for your time. My first name is Sean, S-E-A-N. My last name is Kleckner, K-L-E-C-K-N-E-R.
Next speaker is the president of the Los Angeles Police Protective League, Craig Lally.
I'm Lieutenant Craig Lally. I'm president of the Los Angeles Police Protective League. I'm going on 40 years on the LAPD. I represent the just short of 10,000 officers that wear this badge in the city of Los Angeles, and I came here to show my support along with the LAPD. The police officers, we show our support for this motion today, and so that's why I'm here. And assaults on police officers are up. Obviously, you can read the chart there. It's up 156% in the city of LA. I don't think there's any boundaries. If it happens to an LA police officer, it can happen to a park ranger because they're simply wearing a uniform. And that's why I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Our final speaker is the Chief Park Ranger, Joe Lozerelli.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much to Councilman Lee and Councilman Buscaino for supporting us. I just want to say that the arming of the park rangers is way overdue, way overdue. I've been the park ranger chief for now 2 years, and I'm a retired LAPD officer. I spent 35 years with the LAPD, and I can tell you this, that there is no difference what LAPD officers do and what the rangers do in the field. The only thing is that we have the responsibility of being in the parks, policing the parks, and keeping our parks safe. Our rangers attend the Los Angeles Police Academy. They get the same training as any other law enforcement agency in the country. We are certified and recognized by the state of California as a law enforcement agency. Our rangers over the years have been shot at, have been assaulted. We've responded to murder scenes in the parks over the years. As you can see on the board over here, those are just a few of the weapons that we recovered this year. That doesn't recover, that's just this year. It doesn't include the rest of the years that the Ranger Division has been here. And so it is very important to me and to our Rangers that our city and our community support the arming of the park rangers so that our park rangers can go home safely to their families each night. Our rangers have a responsibility of patrolling 430 parks in the city. Some of these parks, like Griffith Park, are very huge. They patrol more often than not by themselves, and they need to have the proper tools to go home safely every night. We have the training. Everything is in place for the rangers to be armed. We have the policies and procedures. We're just waiting for the green light from the City Council to support this so that our rangers can be safe. And I also have to mention that we have had, over the last few months, a lot of community support from all over the city in favor of arming our rangers so they could have a safety at work and go home at night to their families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. That's going to conclude our press conference. Just reminding you, in your press packets, you should also have a link to a video that summarizes all of this. You should also have a copy of those stats. That's just the first 6 months of this year, and that's only relating to 13 regional parks, not the 420 locations. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of pushback are you guys getting to not make this happen? It seems like you've given so many good reasons of why this is needed, and somebody said earlier, I don't see a reason not to deliver on this. What's the pushback you're getting?
It's been more of a delay in the process in terms of it sitting in committee. Former council member that is no longer the chair. He wasn't reelected, but it was sitting in his committee. So it just hasn't been an urgency. Unfortunately, people kind of think of park rangers as, oh, they're just park rangers. What do they need that for? So we had to get statistics together to show and prove that this is a need. I worked as a part-time park ranger here before I became a police officer. I was actually a park ranger from another city that was armed as well, in a neighboring city. So it's one of those things that's always been an afterthought. Spoke to the mayor about this. The mayor's in support of this. Chief Moore is in support of this, and even the police union that represents LAPDs. And so it's more of a process. of getting this forward, and we're saying enough's enough. This is, like the chief said, it's long overdue.
So, Marshal, just to be clarified, then all these officers are post-certified?
Yes, sir.
And then, Councilman Buscaino, question then, in terms of delay on this, is this a bureaucratic issue? Is this a political issue? I mean, after all, we're in a climate right now where people are trying to defund the police. They're trying to take arms out of cops' hands.
Yep.
And do you think you got an uphill battle here?
That's a good point. It's a very good point. What we see in the climate of law enforcement agencies, not only across the country, but in this entire region, is that a lot of folks who are concerned about policing our city. And the model that's being used, which I oppose, like President Barack Obama, I agree with President Obama about the whole defund LAPD, defund police slogan. It's a mere slogan. These are opponents, to answer your question, ma'am. There will be opponents that say, you know what, we already have enough guns in our streets. We already have enough guns in our parks. These are good guys behind me that need to protect our patrons, but most importantly, protect themselves. So enough with the slogans. We're talking families, when they call and observe a violent crime at our parks, seconds matter. When they call 911, they want to make sure they have a quick response from our rangers. We're now using two different resources. When there's a violent suspect at a park who is armed, rangers need to pull out, call LAPD to respond. And I can tell you as a police officer, seconds matter in a police emergency. So to those opponents, we disagree with you. To those opponents, these are going to be the same opponents who are going to call 911 if they're getting shot at a park. So we need to be honest. We need to speak the truth. And we cannot wait until we bury a ranger to take action. This is no time for what ifs. When it comes to public safety, as I tell my partners, public safety ought not to be politicized.
So then, Councilman Lee, if you're chairing this committee, please step to the microphone. If you're chairing the committee, what does the support look like thus far?
Well, you know, just becoming over the break the chair of this committee, I'm putting together all the different pending items within my committee. I think that we're going to have support for this. I think this is an issue that makes sense. I mean, these are our city parks. Like, they're post-certified, they're recognized by the state as law enforcement. It's just something that's long overdue.
So then where would the funding come? Because that means additional funding, and would the officers also be outfitted with body cams?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chief, please spell your last name for us.
Okay, my first name's Joe. My last name is Lozerelli. It's Losorelli. And the funding for the arming of the Rangers is basically already in the budget for the Department of Recreation and Parks. We get an amount of money for equipment and for different things that we need, and the arming of the Rangers for up to 50 Rangers, which we're trying to get to right now, is going to be running somewhere around $23,000. We've already have the budgeting in place to buy that equipment.
$23,000 to arm the entire force.
Yes, sir.
Now, what about body cams?
Okay, we're looking right now at we're talking to the vendor that is working with LAPD, and we're looking at the body cams so that our Rangers can have those as a tool when they go out in the field. And we're still looking at we had the budgeting for that. We're just looking at the different pricing as we move forward.
What's the budget for that?
What's that?
What's the budget for body cams?
Right now, we're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100,000, $100,000 just for the cameras themselves, and then we're looking into the ports for charging the batteries, for downloading the information from the cameras.
So there's really no savings then to the LAPD side. It would just be an augmentation.
No, but it would be a huge help to the LAPD because the park rangers are usually, more so than not, the first responders to any incident in the park. The reason why is because we're here. We deploy in Griffith Park, we deploy in Debs Park, Hanson Dam, Lake Balboa. I'm trying to get funding to put rangers down in the Venice area where it's needed because of the crime explosion that they have down there. But when we're working these areas, our rangers have a response time anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 or 4 minutes. We're the first ones on scene, and there's been times where we actually had to hold back and wait for LAPD to respond to basically help us out with an emergency or a serious situation that was going on.
So it's in committee now, Councilman. When's it go to vote?
So the motion's been sitting since February of this year, and I'm happy to hear the committee chairman will be hearing the motion. But the questions also will be asked, and this is why it's important for us to hear this motion so we can get the answers that are needed in order to move on this legislation and the change in the LA Municipal Code. The questions will arise: who will investigate officer-involved shootings involving our rangers? It'll be no different than how we respond to officer-involved shootings within the LAPD. And if you haven't been to an officer-involved shooting, I went to one most recently at the Harbor Police Station when our desk officer was attacked. The mobilization of a number of investigators from the Police Commission, the District Attorney's Office, the Police Protective League, the force option, the force investigation detectives. I trust the process that will come in place where it'll be the similar process. The question will also be asked: who will be deciding on whether or not the shooting was in policy or not? Will it be the Police Commission or will it be the Parks Commission? So those are all answers I know that John and I will be seeking as we move forward this legislation. John, you want to add anything?
And so the committee times have not been set yet, but this is I plan on scheduling this at my very first committee meeting, which should be somewhere in the back half of January.
Back half of January?
Yeah.
So when conceivably could this go to a vote for council?
Well, we have to.
If it goes to committee?
Well, I mean, what we're asking for are all the different reports that Councilman Buscaino was talking about to get back from all the different departments to try to figure out the whole, how are we going to involve with everything. Correct.
Is there any money in the budget for more officers? It just seems like you're so, you don't have enough officers for such a huge area that you guys are responsible for. Is that, I know this is a press conference about guns, that seems like another issue.
Well, it's a officer safety question, so it does kind of relate to what we're talking about here. My goal is to get the Ranger Division up to 50 Rangers, and with 50 Rangers I could do a lot all over the city. Eventually I'd like to get it up to 75 Rangers. Right now we do have the funding to fund 23 open positions that we have, and every month when we put in our request for hiring, I do request for hiring of Rangers. It does go through the CAO's office of the city. But because of the pandemic and because of the financial crisis that the city is in, every month I get a denial. But I'm confident and I'm optimistic that that's going to change and they will allow us to continue with the hiring. Right now we do have 2 Rangers in the police academy. It takes time to hire a Ranger from the time they start. It's the same exact process. In fact, LAPD does all our backgrounds and all the testing to get into the academy prior to being hired. So our process is the same as LAPD's, and it's a long process. So, yes.
Let me say this. Policing 101, police science will tell us the fewer officers we have on our streets, expect more crime. The fewer rangers we have in our parks, expect more crime. This is, as a police officer, I can tell you this. This is why Councilmember Lee and I support and value public safety in our city. It's our core function. If people don't feel safe in our city, they're not going to live here, visit here, raise their families here. If people don't feel safe in their parks, they're not going to want to enjoy the beautiful park space that we have in our city. This is why we need to expand upon the Ranger program, which I support, and have more uniformed personnel in our parks to protect not only the Rangers themselves, but also the patrons and those visiting our park spaces.
Can I make one more comment? You brought up a really good point about funding and where we get our funding from to hire the rangers, and it obviously comes from the city, and it's given it the Recs and Parks given allotment. One of the things that we've seen over the years is that we train our rangers, we train them well, they get all the equipment, they go through the academy, we pay for all that, and then when they come into the field without a weapon, it's not. It doesn't. It's the position is not that desirable for them, and we've lost rangers to go to different law enforcement agencies so they can have that tool. And we paid for the training, we paid for the uniforms, we paid to get them up to standard to meet all the standards, and then we lose them. So that's a huge loss to the city.
And they're going to the LAPD Academy, right?
They are, yes. And so we train them, and from time to time we lose them because of the sidearm. And, you know, sometimes you just can't blame the officers for that. So, and we pay for the training. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm sorry. What is the model, and I was trying to look this up real quick, but in other cities in the state, did other park rangers are they armed? Is that...
Well, you know, I've been working on this project for about a year, a little over a year. Okay, I've done a lot of research. Some of the questions that have come up about who's going to investigate officer-involved shootings, I've already talked to the LAPD, I've talked to the city attorney, I've talked to the protocols I want to put in place to have our categorical uses of forces investigated. So all that's ready and in place and ready to go. We just got to get the green light to get all the paperwork in line. Now, I did research from across, all the way across the country. I went from New York, Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles County, and Florida. Some of those cities in those states have ranger programs, but they're not law enforcement officers. They're only interpretive rangers where they get, 6 to 12 weeks of training. New York trains their rangers, has the most training for the rangers, which is 12 weeks. However, after the 12 weeks, they are not considered law enforcement officers. They are not considered, they're not required to make traffic stops. If you look at our cars, we stop people for racing through the parks and going up in the canyons and doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. We respond required. Not only does the mayor's office for LA City, but the council offices call us all the time for different things that go on in the city, and we're required to respond. So we are recognized as a law enforcement agency. These other ranger divisions, other than the federal and state parks, they're the only ones that I've come across that are armed. Okay, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has a park bureau. They have 170 parks in LA County. They have 200 officers assigned to the park systems, and they are all armed, every one of them. They're the only park bureau that works as a ranger division. In fact, from what I heard they're trying to start a ranger division. But yeah, there's not another ranger organization that's within the city that is required to do and mandated to do the things that we do. They're not law enforcement officers. Yeah.
What would they be armed with? I'm guessing it would be the same as an LAPD officer, where they also have less than force?
Yes. Now, our policy and procedures, because we're within the same city, a lot of our policies and procedures are that of the LAPD anyway. When I came over here from LAPD and I started reading the manual, I stopped because it was it almost mirrored LAPD policy and procedures. The weapons that they will carry is going to be the same weapon that our recruits, the LAPD, and our rangers, when they go to the police academy, they are provided a weapon, and we provide the ranger the same weapon. They're trained on that weapon. They fire numerous rounds, manipulations, and everything. And so the same weapon that they get in the academy is the same weapon that, like the LAPD, is the same weapon that our rangers will carry as well. So
What weapon is that?
it's the I can't. What is it?
Smith & Wesson M&P.
The Smith & Wesson MMP.
And you say they have to surrender that, though, when they come over to the park?
The day they graduate from the academy, we got our hand out, taking the weapon away from them. We have them here.
So you've already got them in-house.
We have, but they're weapons that are used for training. The Los Angeles Police Academy will not allow us to would not allow us to use any other weapon other than what they're trained in. We will have to purchase more firearms. Right now we have 10 that are used for training. It's just a sad thing that, you got a law enforcement officer that's expected to do law enforcement work, but they don't give them the tools to do it.
Hello, I'm Park Ranger Fuentes, Joseph Fuentes, Fuentes. On that day, on October 1st, right now I'm trained as an FTO, Field Training Officer. I had a trainee with me, and it was just another call in the park that we usually do. We observed two people, male and a female, with an alcoholic beverage. At the time, we approached them, introduced ourselves, and then we wanted to go ahead and either educate or enforce. And then basically, within seconds, the subject got aggravated, and then he pulled from his right pocket a firearm. And at that moment, with LAPD training, what we were supposed to do, if we did have our sidearm, is to engage that suspect. However, at that time, my trainee, with his training, he yelled gun. And then at that point, we ran for our lives. I was scared. I thought I was gonna die. I ran into a bush. I had two other part-timers with me, and my partner, he ran behind our patrol vehicle for coverage. We put it out over the radio. We requested LAPD to assist us, and that's what happened. Everything happened so quickly. I'm glad to be here, but again, just saying that the firearm is a tool that we need to use to do our job effectively and efficiently. And like I said before, I was scared and I thought I was going to die.
And this wasn't a brandishing. This was pulling out the gun and actually firing at the Rangers.
How close were you to the subjects when you fired at?
Just as far as you were. There was probably just some rocks in the middle of our direction, and we just wanted to just talk, just let them know that there's no drinking in the park. Just a common call that we usually do in the parks. Smoking, drinking, and it escalated to someone brandishing a firearm, racking the slide with intent to kill us. So do you want to talk further on that?
Yeah, we did set up a perimeter on that morning, and actually that afternoon, and LAPD did come out and assist us with that search. About 2 hours into the search, the subject was found, but he had passed away, and it had nothing to do with an officer involved shooting or anything else like that. The report is still at the coroner's office. I tried to get it for this press conference this morning, and we haven't yet determined what the cause of death was. We're assuming it was probably related to maybe a heart attack because of the induced of narcotics. He was a young guy, 20, I believe, he's 24, and he as he was running, he passed away, and we found him, and we don't know yet what the cause of death is. I suspect it's probably going to be narcotics of some sort.
Did you recover his firearm?
We searched the area on foot for 6 to 7 hours that evening, and we also went back the following morning to look for the weapon. We also used our aerial drones that have heat sensors on them, and we couldn't find it. So we don't know the exact route that the suspect took after he fired, but we checked the entire east end of Elysian Park by the 110 freeway. So, I believe LAPD knows who she is. She ended up driving away in a car. So, no, and the reason why is because they separated as he ran shooting. She got in the car and left. So there's highly unlikely that she has it. At Elysian Park. I'm sorry?
October 1st.
October 1st. To that particular call? Well, usually that's an officer needs help call, so it's it's at the top of the list for response. So their response time was really quick. I can't tell you exactly how many minutes, but it was very quick. So,
can I speak on Ranger Fuentes? He almost didn't go home that night. Ranger Fuentes did not have the proper tools to protect himself and others in the park that day. His response was throwing sticks and stones. Let's be honest with ourselves. We're not talking Yogi Bear here. We're talking at times there are dangerous people in our park space, and we rely on our park rangers to protect us, to protect themselves. And there may be opponents who are going to say, oh, they're going to be shooting at everybody. Not true. They're trained by the best in our country. They are trained by the best in our country. You know, they're trained to immediate defense of life. And using the last resort is your firearm. Last resort. So by the grace of God, Ranger Fuentes is with us today. And we can't wait for a park ranger funeral to take action in our city. I'm done.
Thank you. Just say real quick, just from your heart, like what it would mean to you to have a firearm on that experience, just as the last thing, if you don't mind. What that was like to go through and how much more relieved you would feel being armed?
I would feel extremely relieved. I feel safe. I enjoy my job as a park ranger, and I chose to stay here with the expectation that this is going to push through. As Chief said, we did lose a couple good guys and gals to other agencies because they want to feel safe. They want to go home to their families. And again, this is a tool for us to do our job effectively. People see guns as a negative way that it's not for us. We're trained professionals. And as a whole, I do feel like I love my job. I love being a park ranger. And I just want to be safe to go home to my family. Thank you.